skin is an incredibly important organ. It actually reflects the health status of all the other organs and systems in our body. Ingesting foods that are excessively high in combined with just not good to do. It's going to cause all sorts of issues. Additional things happening in the pores of cells that can start to really aggravate acne and cause more acne. Your skin is going to look so much better, so much healthier, more vibrant. All of that is going to make you look more youthful. It's not an imagined effect, it is real.
Health Lab.
Any discussion about skin has to include a discussion about nutrition. Why? Your skin and your immune system have a very intimate relationship. It's bidirectional. Your skin reflects the status of your immune system in many ways. But anytime we're talking about the immune system or skin, we need to take into account the gut microbiome and nutrition. So many people asked, what are the things that they should eat to have healthy appearing, youthful skin? They also asked, what are the things that one eats that could exacerbate things like acne? And what can one eat in order to reduce their acne? So let's just start off with the basics. And here I'm going to be fairly brief because I think we all know the big take-home message about nutrition nowadays. We hear over and over again, and we should pay attention to the fact that we want to consume the vast majority of our foods from non-processed or minimally processed sources, so-called whole foods, so fruits, vegetables, if that's within your diet. Some people include grains, some people don't. I'm not here to discuss that. Meat, eggs, fish, chicken, and so forth, if that's within your diet plan or your nutrition, or if you're a vegetarian or vegan, you make the associated adjustments so that you can make sure you're getting enough protein and amino acids, but it's in keeping with your ethical and maybe your health goals. Getting the majority of your nutrition from non-processed or minimally processed foods is going to be best. And that, of course, if you're human, sometimes you'll ingest processed foods, but really trying to avoid highly processed foods is critical. Now, with respect to the specific foods that can improve skin appearance and skin health, it's very clear that diets that are of the so-called low inflammatory type, that don't spark inflammation, so these would be things that sometimes are referred to as the Mediterranean diet or a paleo-like diet. You hear these terms, but what are we really talking about? Mostly whole foods, minimally processed foods, okay? And then there's variation depending on whether or not you emphasize or de-emphasize meat and fish, or emphasize or de-emphasize vegetables, this kind of thing. What do we know about the relationship between specific foods and skin health and skin appearance? Well, anti-inflammatory diet, we've more or less spelled out what that represents without getting into too many specifics. And then there are the specific components within foods, so vitamins, minerals, and micronutrients, as well as things like collagen present in bone broth that can be really useful to include. So one of the, I think, best accounts on dermatologic health and skin health and appearance on the internet is Dr. Andrea Suarez. She's a medical doctor, board-certified dermatologist. She certainly mentions collagen and bone broth. She also mentions various sources of omega fatty acids that are often lacking in people's diets that they should pay extra careful attention to get. So things like walnuts, flax, fatty fish. I personally am a big believer in supplementing with liquid form fish oil. That's what I do. Why am I a big believer in that? Well, I don't tend to cook much fatty fish. I love the taste of it if it's prepared right, but I don't tend to do that very often. So I use a liquid form fish oil or capsules, but the liquid form is generally more affordable. It's also suggested that we eat a lot of leafy greens, so dark leafy greens. And of course, we should get our colored fruits and veggies, so our oranges, our strawberries. The reds and oranges are critical out there. And she also highlights something very important that I want to reiterate, which is that we have a critical need for vitamin A for our skin health. Vitamin A is crucial for a number of different processes within the cell types that make up skin. She appropriately cautions against supplementing with vitamin A because it's a fat-soluble vitamin. It's very easy to overdose vitamin A if one is supplementing with too much of it. She recommends rather getting enough vitamin A from things like oranges, carrots, sweet potatoes. She recommends as much berry intake as is appropriate for someone and one can afford. The berries are so delicious, but they tend to be expensive depending on time of year. Ingesting things like garlic, because garlic has sulfur, which is key for collagen synthesis and repair. And she talks about the critical role of taurine. Anyway, she does such a terrific job of describing the nutrition for skin health and skin appearance. Those are just a few of the highlights. So I do encourage you to check out that video. So again, without doing a deep dive into nutrition, decide whether or not you're going to be vegan, vegetarian, omnivore, or carnivore, and then make sure that you're getting enough of the vitamins and minerals and micronutrients from your foods, or supplement if necessary. But note that caution about vitamin A supplementation in excess. And also make sure you're avoiding excessive amounts of highly processed foods. You know, I mentioned earlier these advanced glycation end products. These are things that are present in a lot of processed foods like crackers and chips and things like that, that make those foods inflammatory. So you're getting the theme now. Inflammation is bad, not just for the skin, but for all organ systems of the body. It's not just about the high density of calories and the high density of taste present in highly processed foods. Those are problematic, but a lot of the issue with these highly processed foods is the high heat conditions used to make those foods stable on shelves or stable in packaging over time. Because as you probably know, when you ingest foods that are high in sugars or even just carbohydrates generally, that also contain a lot of fats, and in particular when those foods are highly processed, well, then you initiate an inflammatory response, and you often can initiate additional things happening in the pores of cells that can start to really aggravate acne and cause more acne. We all know what the best nutrition really is for us, regardless of whether or not you're vegan, vegetarian, omnivore, or carnivore. It's non-processed or minimally processed foods representing probably anywhere from, let's say, 75 to 100% of your food intake, depending on how strict you want to be. And then sure, make some room if you want for some processed foods, but just know that those advanced glycation end products and the high glycemic load that comes from those processed foods can really exacerbate inflammatory responses in skin and set forward a whole domino set of issues related to hormone pathways and cell growth pathways that make everything, acne, psoriasis, and overall appearance worse. That high heat preparation required for creating things as delicious as the donut or French fries, right? There's a reason people love these foods. They're so delicious. They do cause problems. They're pro-inflammatory. Does that mean you can never have a French fry? No. You decide what's best for you, but know what you're doing. As a segue to talking about acne, we need to talk about the gut microbiome. And this is a direct outgrowth of our discussion about nutrition. Here's the simple takeaway that I believe everyone should follow, not just for sake of healthy appearing skin, but also for sake of every organ and tissue system in your body, which is the data clearly show that ingestion of sufficient amounts of fiber, so prebiotic and probiotic fiber, so fruits, vegetables, sometimes this can also come from grains. Some people will supplement with additional fiber if they feel they need it, as well as ingestion of low sugar fermented foods, things like kimchi, sauerkraut, the sort of sauerkraut that has to stay in the fridge. So not the stuff that's stable on the shelf at room temperature. Anything containing a brine, that salty brine. So pickles, but not the pickles that are stable at room temperature, the ones that have to be kept in the refrigerated section of the grocery store. These low sugar fermented foods are powerful enhancers of the gut microbiome. And when the gut microbiome is healthy, you have reduced overall inflammation in the body. This is often reflected at the level of the skin. And basically, skin health and the youthfulness appearance of skin is enhanced, okay? This can also help with conditions like acne or psoriasis, especially in conditions where there's a direct immune system skin relationship that we'll talk about more in a little bit. Okay, so I highly recommend people have anywhere from 1 to 4 servings of low sugar fermented foods per day, or try and enhance the health of their gut microbiome generally. Why am I talking about this? In part because we keep coming back to inflammation as a general issue for skin health. And that points us also towards some specific do's and don'ts as it relates to lifestyle. Let's face it, if you sleep well on a consistent basis, your skin is going to look so much better, so much healthier, more vibrant than if you are not getting enough sleep. If you drink alcohol and you wake up the next morning, you know your skin's going to look puffy. It's not going to look good. Alcohol is going to exacerbate most skin issues. This is just clear from the literature. Doesn't mean you never have a glass of wine. Doesn't mean you never have a beer or a cocktail if that's your thing. So get great sleep. Avoid alcohol in excess. Maybe avoid it altogether. Drink plenty of water. This sounds like such basic advice, but proper hydration is key. Get enough water and electrolytes. And keep in mind that things that improve blood flow, reduce inflammation, give you lower stress, better sleep. All of that is going to make you look more youthful. It's not an imagined effect, it is real.